everybody, we're back day 2 making a memory bear tutorial. I split it up into these 5 steps. We already did day 1. You can go back at my channel and look for day 1's video. Today, day 2, we're going to be sewing the darts, sewing the seam lines, and adding eyes. Also, here's some supplies that you might want to add today. So here we have our 2 pattern pieces. This is the 2 front pieces. I have marked which side is the wrong side since the interfacing and my fabric is both white, so I marked W for wrong side. That will help when putting the pieces together. Here's the 2 back pieces. I also marked these with a W for the wrong side so I can keep track of which is the right side and which is the wrong side. Now you're going to want to take out just one piece of your front pattern piece and make sure wrong side is facing up. Put it down on your table wrong side up, and then take your pattern piece and lay it on top just like this, and make sure all the edges are even with each other. Just kind of go around and make sure the pattern piece is on top of the fabric as good as you can do. After you have it all lined up nicely, we're going to take our marking pen and we're going to mark the dots for connecting lines for the dart we're going to sew on the head. So you'll see on your pattern piece that there's holes for you to draw dots. My pattern piece is very worn, so it doesn't look as nice as yours probably, but make marks in those holes, and then you're going to repeat for the other piece. Now to make the sewing lines for the darts, you'll take your ruler and you will connect the corner dot with the other dot. Now my pattern piece is worn, like I said before, so it doesn't line up right, but I know that this dot back here on the right is supposed to match up with the corner. And you'll connect that right dot with the other dot too, and you should end up with a triangle just like this. Repeat for the other piece. Now we need to make the dart. So you're going to fold like this, like you see. And the 2 lines need to match up, so I take a pin and push it through one side and see if it comes out the other side on the line, and if it does, I pin it in place. So I'm going to check down here in the corner too, just to make sure. And it was good, so then I just check one more time from the other side just to make sure everything is lining up. And then you will repeat that for the other front pattern piece. Now take out your 2 back pattern pieces and put them wrong side up, and you're going to take the dart that's already cut out and just pin it together on both pieces. And then after that we're going to take them over to the sewing machine and sew the darts. So this is the back pattern piece. You're going to just sew that part at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, both pieces. Now what we need to do on the back is sew a line, a 1/4 inch seam allowance down the side of it, the right side. And that's going to help for when we're all finished and we're sewing up the hole where we have put the stuffing in. It's really nice to have a line to follow so that you're sewing it up in a straight line. Repeat those 2 steps on the other back piece. sewing the dart shut and sewing the seam line guide. Now you're going to take out one of your front pattern pieces. You're going to sew directly on the line that we drew for the dart, and then down there on the curve at the bottom of the stomach, just draw a 1/4 inch seam allowance line. It'll just be kind of a guide that will make it easier when we're putting the front and the back pieces together. Repeat that for both front pattern pieces. Here I'm showing you where to sew that 1/4 inch seam line on the tummy of the bear. You'll want to trim both of those darts on the front pattern pieces to a 1/8 inch. So now we have both front pattern pieces finished with the dart, and now we are going to sew them together. So you're going to want to make sure that the right sides are together and the wrong sides are on the outside. So right sides touching. Put them right on top of each other so that they line up together. For the dart, I like to push one of the seams to the left and one to the right, and it usually lays down very nicely. You'll be pinning it in place from the head to the bottom side of the tummy. I like to put 2 pins in sort of an X shape where I need to stop sewing so that I don't forget. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the top head to the bottom of the tummy, right where I just pointed. To sew the back pieces together, also put them right sides together, wrong sides out. So put them right sides touching and line them up just like you did to the front pattern piece. You're going to pin the back just like you did the front, but you need to leave an opening for where we're going to put the stuffing in. So you're going to sew from the top headpiece down to your X and then leave open the hole for stuffing, and then you're going to go down to the top of the legs and then also stop sewing. After you take out all of the pins, lay out your front piece. Now it's time to make the marks for where you're going to insert the eyes. I like to use those two lines right there from the darts as kind of a guide as to where to put the eyes. I use my ruler and just try to measure out two of the same measurements on each side. It doesn't always come out correctly. It's not always totally even, but it's a handmade thing, so sometimes it's just not going to look totally even. But just do the best you can with your ruler and it'll be fine. Now for making the holes to insert the eyes, I don't know if my method is the best, so if somebody else has a different way that you do it, I'd love to hear it. I either use a seam ripper to poke a tiny hole, or I use my really tiny scissors with a sharp point to poke a little hole. You started using the scissors, but I've gotten it down good enough to where I use the seam ripper, and I've never had a problem with it, but I'm sure that there's a better method. So if you have one, let me know what it is. Here's the first place that I think a glue gun comes in handy. The eyes come with the little back parts that clip in place. You can hear them click when you put them on, but I like to use hot glue just to really ensure that they don't come apart. And I use it on I use hot glue every single time I put in eyes, and I've never had a problem. That is the last step of day 2. I think the most involved steps are behind us now, so good job!